Gwen! No! Gwen! I can't lose you two! At least we still have the amazing Spider-Man 3. What is that? No future! No future for you! I just wanna lay down and cry. Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display. So, bet you didn't expect to see this guy on this channel, huh? Because in a previous video, we did have this guy who I will not name by name, who had a few choice words to say about this figure before I actually picked him up. I'm just going to play a very quick clip of what they had to say right now. As for this version, he was actually the only one they did not have on the pegs when I went there, and also he's a little bit too over the top stylistically for me, so even if he was there, I probably would have passed. And to that guy in the past, I have to say, boo! Stupid! You're dumb! Nobody loves you! Because I don't know what I was thinking. This combines two of my favorite things. Punk rock and friggin' Spider-Man. And for those of you who haven't pieced together the puzzle yet, this is the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 Spider-Punk, who we've seen once before in Marvel Legends, but that was a more comic-accurate variant. And I will say, I have somewhat fancied the concept of a Spider-Punk, but that original design didn't do a whole lot for me. But the more I eyeballed this one, there was something about it that was kind of just drawing me in, pulling me in. You can't look away! Look at the magnificent detail! So ultimately I wound up getting this guy in Amazon in 3 days, no less, pretty much. And honestly, just from the presentation alone, he looks fantastic. I mean, starting with the box, exact same presentation as we saw with the Peter B. Parker we just had a look at. Basically, blister board, we got the plastic in the front, and I've been informed that this is probably going to be a mainstay because Hasbro is officially ditching the green packaging. So much for investigating that, right? Anyways, you got your base figure. It doesn't say Spider-Punk on the main card, but it does here when we have this insert. Off to the back, we have Spider-Punk once again in a very beautiful shot. Then we also have the rest of the figures in the wave. Of course, we already have Peter B. Parker. As for the rest of them, this is where I could say, yeah, I don't really have a desire to go after them. I prefer the younger versions of Miles and Gwen. I prefer the comic version of 2099. I know nothing about Jessica Drew. And I prefer my custom comic-accurate variant of Spot. So, I don't know, maybe I'll see the movie and I'll change my mind. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and pass. Again, the wallet, it's been having a rough time lately. But for those of you who are familiar with this channel, you know what must happen next. Over here, we have our Start Audience. Staying off to the side, we have his usual cousins. Say hello to
Green Arrow.
Aslan.
C.
You.
Canada.
21.
EAC.
And even though this is Marvel, why not?
I am Superman.
I'm not going to show you the full unboxing because if you're an action figure collector, you probably know how the blister board boxes work, but I will be bringing out Betsy once again for this. This is going to be fun. I know that I kind of lane blasted myself enough previously, but for last time I would like to talk to my 3 weeks ago self and say, you did a dumb. This figure is really cool. Actually, better than I expected. He's got a lot of surprises hidden in there. So for those of you who don't know Spider-Punk, I actually did want to brush up on some history on him, but his story is pretty simple, but basically the Earth that he comes from, you either have one or two things. You have a guitar, or you have a suit and tie. It's basically just flat-out anarchy versus corporate business, effectively. And then essentially this version of Spider-Man, who is not Peter Parker, by the way, he goes by a different name, he leads a revolution against the President of the United States, Norman Osborn, better known as the Green Goblin. And the craziest thing about this Spider-Man, he's one of the only iterations that actually kills the green baddie with his guitar, which is pretty kick-ass. Let's go ahead and look at this absolutely ridiculous but also amazing head sculpt, although there is a little bit of a spike that's kind of bent down in the back there, as you could see. I'll give him a little bit of hot water, not a big deal. It's pretty soft plastic, so if you have any QC issues with the studs, which are kind of throughout this figure, give him hot water for 5 minutes, not even, maybe, and then he should be just fine. I have a tutorial if you want to go ahead and check that out in my playlists, but yeah, as you can see from the face, there is something very different going on from your conventional spider people. Of course, you got the big eyes, you got the trademark red, you got the web design and all that, but still, there is a lot of interesting going on. First of all, asymmetry. You know me, that's one of my favorite words whenever it comes to talking about a toy. You have these two eyes, but they are very differently shaped and angled. They're not rounded much, maybe over here and then along this side, like on the outer edges of the eye, but then it just hits these really jagged, sharp corners, which I really love. Makes him feel very cartoony and really helps to amplify that anarchist vibe that this figure gives throughout. And then also another very subtle detail that really made me love this is when you get very, very close to the bottom of the eyes, you get a little bit of My Chemical Romance. You have some dripping mascara that really does upgrade this design in contrast to the original comic book counterpart, in my opinion. Then, of course, up at the head, you have some head spikes that kind of create a mohawk. Again, a little bit more, well, considerably more exaggerated than as he appeared in the comics. And then when you look towards the back, you can see they're not totally aligned. They're a little bit off, which I really do love. Going down, yep, you get even more diversion from the classic Spider-Man design. You have a leather waistcoat with all these very nice silver studs. The paint is gorgeously applied. It can get a little bit sloppy here and there, not too bad overall, but again, if there's any slop, it's not very noticeable, and again, it just kind of adds to the aesthetic of this punk rocker over here. Getting a little bit closer, you can make out some buttons. We have kind of a clover. I'm not too sure what that means. You also have the British flag because that is arguably where punk rock began. And this is a British iteration of Spider-Man, for the record. Over here, we got a little bit of a skull. It says something at the top. I can't quite make that out. And then down here, you got some purple. Then you got this big ol' Anarchy A. You gotta love that. Anytime you see that, I smile. Just how I am. On the back of this waistcoat, you have more of the studs at the top. And then you also have this really awesome nitty-gritty spray-painted Spidey logo. Kind of reminds me of the What's Up Danger version of Miles, right? The arms are also asymmetrical. You have more of those studs going around the bicep over here on the right. But then on the left, continuing down, you have those studs once again, this time on the wrist. And then you also have these really cool looking graffiti works going down from the elbow to the hands, and it kind of carries on and then stops at the fingers pretty much. And then as for the different hands that we have, actually, there's not a whole lot of accessories, so we'll just talk about hands now. You have a thwipping hand for the left over here. So, of course, it's not just thwipping, but it could also be devil horns, because this is a rocker naturally. As for this one over here, you have a very specific gripping hand for the guitar that we will have a look at when we're done with this figure. And then over here, this is a surprise I didn't notice until I actually opened him. I thought it would just simply be a strumming hand for the guitar, but no, he's got a guitar pick, which I really love. Down to the legs, we have these really interesting suspenders with a very saturated baby blue. I really like how those hang down, not just loosely, but also, again, asymmetrically. This one feels shorter than the other. Kind of reminds me of X-Wing fighter pilot Luke, now that I think about it. You also have these belts, which also feel Han Solo. Some things are starting to tie together here. And then you also have these more interesting and varied web patterns going down the rest of these leather pants. Very different aesthetically from what's done on the arms and the torso. And speaking of torso, I forgot to mention, actually, this feels very Scarlet Spider-Man, the Ben Reilly variant, right? When he had the hoodie and all that. I don't know, maybe this guy is just trying to be an amalgamation of everything we love from Spider-Man and just pop culture in general. There's a lot of cool things with this guy. The more I stare at him, the more I love him. And then finally we get down to these really big boots. I love them a lot. They have some shoelaces, also done in that similar blue that we see, perhaps a little bit darker than the suspender straps, but yeah, and then you also have, they could have gone ahead and painted up those little holes in there. Not a huge deal. And then down at the shoes, continue to work with that string, but then it gets to the soles, and those aren't painted. I feel like there should be a white or something like that. But honestly, I'm not disappointed at all with this figure in terms of the general looks. Everything here is absolutely spectacular. I actually haven't put this in his hands yet, but over here we have the main accessory that makes Spider-Punk, being his big old electric guitar, which looks totally great. I could see this hanging up on the ceiling of some bar or Newbury Comics or something. But yeah, you can see here, it's kind of sticker bombed. Man, this is probably like Easter egg heaven, isn't it? I don't know, you got kind of like this racing flag over here, you got an arrow, you got some skulls. Kind of reminds me of Watch Dogs 2, a lot of what's going on. Got a wolf, you have some text over here. I can't really make out what that says. You could tell this is definitely printed on, which is not a bad thing. It looks very good. I got some more logos over here. And then there also is this very subtle black stain wash to kind of simulate a wood, which is pretty neat. Going down here, you have the strings. I wish they were done in a silver or a white or something, but then again, if they did that, it might scratch up when you put it in the fingers, but I don't know. It's just one hand. That hand seems pretty loose. Again, I haven't put that in yet. You also have these knobs painted in black where the strings end, and then you have this big old, again, blue strap to sling around his shoulder in whatever position you like. So let's go ahead, pan back out, and see how we do with setting this guy up in his rock-on pose. So we're just going to go ahead, put that loop over his head, avoid those spikes, of course. So the arm, yeah, I guess you just crunch it in, pop that right over. Yeah, look at that, it's really cool. And then we can get the hand down. I'm not doing anything too dynamic right now. I'm just getting him in a basic strumming position. Get this arm up. It is worth mentioning that the arms, because of the stylistic choices done in the Spider-Verse canon, they are very lanky and they're made of a very soft plastic, so they do bend quite a bit. So do be careful with that. Just put some extra fingers on there as you're moving the arms, and then we can get that hand, slot the guitar in between, and you know what? That looks pretty banger. I like that quite a lot. So let's go ahead. Get his feet flat, see how hard he is to stand, and honestly, not at all. He looks great. I had a lot of issues with both Peter B. Parkers in terms of standing, but as for him, he stands out perfectly balanced. I feel like I'm probably going to have him suspended in the air, doing that rock-on shtick, looking really cool, but you know what? He's really, really good. I say unless there's reuse, I don't think we'll ever have to worry about articulation issues in a Marvel Legends again, especially for this guy, because all this is obviously unique sculpt exclusively for him. So starting up top at the head, we have a pretty good amount of tilt. You have some good headbanger action with that much forward, and then a pretty good amount back. Again, once I heat up that spike, it should go straight out. I don't see that hindering anything whatsoever. You have swivel. It's limitless. Nothing gets in the way whatsoever. The craziest joint on this figure, though, is the ab crunch. It's pretty well hidden under the waistcoat. Doesn't look like too much, but when you crunch him forward, Jesus, it's like 90 sharp. Putting him back, if we move the waistcoat a little bit out of the way, it looks really awkward. You see that joint protruding out of his abs, but yeah, it goes far back. I guess the area where you want to stop, if you don't like that bulge, is, well, nowhere, I guess. If you ever put him back at all, you're going to see a little bit of a something, but that doesn't bother me at all. I'm probably going to have him crunching forward more than anything. As for the shoulders, no butterflies at all, but that's okay. Swivels around. Without rotating the shoulder joint, it comes out to just below 90, which is fine. You have a bicep swivel, not an issue. Double jointed elbows, everything here is pinless for the record. Again, they're a little rubbery, so you gotta put in some effort, but yeah, it pretty much goes all the way in. Then you have swivel at the wrist, and I think all of them hinge in and out. Yes, I'm referring to the whipping hand as well. Down to the waist, do we have swivel? We do. Okay, sometimes they forget to do that on certain figures, but again, this is a totally unique figure. Going on to the legs, there are no complaints to be had whatsoever. They kick forward to basically 90. Let me straighten that out. Yeah, I'd say that's a solid 90. Going back, they V out, but not by a ton. Let's see a little look at the butt sculpt. It is a very tiny spider butt, but yeah, it V's out, but it does go very far back, as you can see there. As for kicking out, shy of 90, not too bad though. Thigh swivel, not an issue. Double jointed knees, pinless once more, very beautiful. You also have a calf swivel just where the leg meets the boot. I always love when they do that. There's always a good spot to put that joint inside. And then you have, of course, your ankle joint going that far back, that far forward, and let's have a good old rocker for this punk rock Spider-Man. Now here we are at size comparisons where I have Spider-Punk with the guitar actually slung over his back, which is something I wanted to do, and it works out beautifully. So if you want him to have that guitar solo on him while doing some whipping action, like the classic Spider-Man, then you can absolutely do that. So it's just a nice option that you got. But anyhow, on to comparing him with his fellow Spider-Verse brethren and one sister. We have the two Peter B. Parkers that we've we've gotten from the first wave and the new carded wave that Spider-Punk came in. Yeah, these guys worry me because they are very lanky, they are very top-heavy, they're actually leaning against the back of this backdrop right now. But as for Spider-Punk, he could stand up a lot better than these two, I feel like. And we also have the initial release of Miles Morales from the same movie, and then we also have Spider-Gwen. And those are the two younger versions that came from the initial wave. Now to put them beside some other Marvel Legends with one exception, we have the initial release of 2099. I don't know, I just prefer this one a lot more than the retro card release that we got, and also the Spider-Verse version, just because he has that really pretty blue sheen. I like this version just a lot more, even though he has no accessories except for that cape. Then we also have this Spider-Man's version of the President of the United States, being the Green Goblin, also retro card. Then over here we have the Insomniac Marvel Spider-Man. This is the Spider Armor Mark 1 with Molotov Chrome throughout. Then over here we have my very well-loved Mafex Amazing Spider-Man 2 Spider-Man, not to be confused with the No Way Home version. This one is very weak and the joints are terrible, so I'm looking forward to getting the Hasbro Pulse exclusive No Way Home 3-pack with all three Spider-Men, so really looking forward to replacing him, as much as he is near and dear to my heart. Then over here, of course, we have the Star Wars The Black Series Muck Muck. Whoa, you're so cool! Can I rock out with you?
What do you think I'm going to say to you? There is as much chance of you being a pop star or a rock star as me flying to the moon tomorrow morning for breakfast. You are a terrible singer, you are a terrible dancer, you have no charisma. America would hate you. But the image is hideous. It's never gonna happen.
Hey, you spider people aren't as charitable as you claim to be. This figure is badass. I love it a lot. It was a huge surprise to me. Again, I don't have a really personal attachment to Spider-Punk, but again, he is a manifestation of a lot of different things that I love in pop culture. I mean, you got all the buttons, you got the leather, they got Spider-Man, of course, you got rock and roll. He's just a lot of fun. I like his backstory too, as simple as it is. And also, he's just a very big diversion from the traditional boring, not boring, but pretty expected red and blue we've been seeing a lot from these Spider-Man figures. I mean, it comes with the mental image of the character, right? But then you got all the metal, you got the studs, you got the graffiti, you got the laces, you got the guitar, of course, and you got the guitar pick, which I didn't even expect. And this guy just makes for a wild time. He's really cool. He goes against the grain. He kind of breaks down your mental image of what one of your all-time favorite superheroes was supposed to be. Great articulation, great paint apps overall. I love this new design. It is very good. I highly recommend him. And I'm glad I changed my mind to grab him, because again, initially I wasn't too interested, but the more I stared at him, the more nuances I noticed, the more I realized, you know what, this is something special, and I'm glad I changed my mind. He's very, very metal. I dig him. He's good. So if you enjoyed this review, I very much appreciate you watching, and if you're new here, then please, as per usual, be sure to like, comment,
and subscribe. Or leave a bad review for your favorite comic book movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Of course, we have a lot more Marvel and DC and NECA videos that you can go ahead and look in our catalog. We have a lot more planned and a lot of things already recorded, so go ahead and enjoy this healthy buffet that we have in store for you. So thank you guys very much again for watching. Rock on, especially now, and I will see you all later. I don't know why. The first thing that comes to mind is the opening scene of Back to the Future, but that shouldn't be the first thing that comes to my head, but that's what it is. I don't know what role he's going to play, but I'm hoping that he's not totally hero, know what I mean? He seems like he could be a guy who goes on somewhat of a mean streak. Obviously, he's the rebellious sort, so it would be nice to have those more morally ambiguous Spider-Man. Like, obviously, Spider-Man 2099 is going to play not necessarily an antagonist role, but he's going to be somewhat of an aggressor towards Miles and all the main Spider people that we've met in the previous installment. But I think Spider-Punk, I'm hoping he's going to add a lot of unique flavor, and he's not just going to be a background dude that we see cameo, and that's it. Because honestly, with a character design this extravagant and such a far cry from the original, he really does deserve some more spotlight than just showing up and that's it. Nothing is reused. Shower time for the neighbors again. Shit.